The relationship between a mother and a daughter can be the most powerful bond in our lives, or sometimes the one that hurts the most. In our 40s, that relationship often comes full circle. We start to see our mothers as women, not just parents. We notice how much of her story lives in us, in how we love, how we parent, and how we care for ourselves. This episode is about what happens when we finally stop running from that history and start healing. It's about breaking cycles, setting boundaries, and finding peace, even when that forgiveness feels complicated. Because sometimes healing your relationship with your mother is how you finally come home to yourself.
If you enjoy this episode and find it useful, please share it with a loved one. And don't forget to subscribe and like the Forties Formula.
Nur Adam is a Singapore-based trauma recovery therapist and motivational speaker known for her integrative body, mind, heart approach to healing. As founder of The Good Life Counseling and host of The Good Life Podcast, she helps people navigate the hidden wounds of heartbreak, abandonment, and rejection so that they can reclaim safety, connection, and purpose. With a Master of Counseling and specialized training in somatic therapies, family systems, and rapid transformation protocols, Nur believes that healing is not about fixing what's broken. It's about relearning trust with your body, emotions, and life story.
The Forties Formula. The Forties Formula.
The Forties Formula. Hosted by Jasmin, Dhillon, integrated health strategist specializing in gut health, hormones, and midlife well-being.
And Amanda Lim, director of Lift Clinic and a leading expert in female strength and metabolism.
Named one of CNA's top podcasts and winner of the 2025 Asia Podcast Awards in the Best Health and Wellness Podcast category.
The Forties Formula is your no fluff, science meets real life guide to thriving in your 40s.
Nur, we are so happy to have you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is so exciting. And I think, we were talking off air, right? We are not all mothers yet, but we are all daughters. And I think talking about the mother-daughter relationship is something that we can all relate to. Why is the mother-daughter relationship feel so intense?
So, when we're talking about the mother-daughter bond, it is something that can either evoke the deepest pain or the deepest comfort. Because this bond, it is not just a relationship, it is an imprint, which means the blueprint of, love and safety. It all begins in a mother's womb, right? So in her womb, when she is calm, regulated, the body produces these hormones, oxytocin, serotonin, and these are hormones of safety and connection. So when the body produces that, the baby feels that, and the baby goes, oh, okay, I can chill, I can relax. But when the mother is under a lot of stress, what happens is that the body produces these stress hormones. So there's cortisol, adrenaline, and all of that is being felt by the baby. And the baby goes, oh my gosh, I need to panic because something does not feel right here. And all of these stress hormones, it primes the baby's brain, for vigilance instead of ease and connection. So when the baby is going through a lot of this, a lot of stress on the inside, so what happens is that it forms a baseline from which the baby, knows what trust is like, what safety is like, what normalcy is like. And it doesn't just live in the mind. It lives in the body, in the implicit memory of the nervous system. So these kind of memories, they don't speak the language of words or images. They speak the language of body sensations, emotions, right? So it can feel really intense when it comes to you. So when you go out there into the world, all your future relationships will be unconsciously compared to this original imprint.
Wow.
Right? It's super powerful. So if the imprint is filled with a lot of love and compassion, it will reactivate those neural pathways of safety. But if the imprint is filled with a lot of fear, abuse, neglect, the body learns both love and danger. It learns that both of them coexist, and that can feel, confusing for any child, which is why you will find a lot of individuals struggling with leaning into love, because when they crave for it, they want it, they can't help but feel another part come in, go, no, it's too dangerous, do not go there.
So what you're saying is these patterns start in the womb.
Yeah.
So you are born in a way with kind of an imprint of where your future relationships might lead.
Exactly.
How do you see that translating into the childhood relationship and then when that baby becomes an adult?
So, once the baby is out, whatever has been learned, it doesn't magically go away just because, you've all grown up, you've become an adult. Instead, it manifests itself in a lot of patterns that you go into, right? Because a lot of these childhood wounds, what we call the trauma wounds, it's something that does not come in a form of clear memories. You might not even remember the specific detail or event that happened that caused you to be, so anxious today. But your body remembers that. It stores every single event in memory and it goes, something does not feel right today. So it manifests itself in the form of the patterns, the roles that you play in your relationships in order to preserve that connection. So, for instance, you might be seeing yourself playing this role of a peacemaker, right? Where you're like, conflict, no, that's not for me. So you avoid conflicts at all costs and you will do whatever it takes, even at the expense of your own well-being. You will do whatever it takes to maintain the peace. So that's one. Maybe you take on the role of the achiever, right? Feeling like you need to do all these things, achieve all these things in order to feel like a somebody, right? Feeling as though there's no room for mistakes. If you make a mistake, it means that you're a failure. Maybe you take on the role of the silencer, where you feel something, but because this role is so close to you, every time you feel something, there's so much fear around trying to express your truth, express your pain and your feelings.
And do you find that those roles also kind of tag onto the birth order that you may have? I was just talking with another former guest of the Forties Formula about the eldest daughter.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yes.
And so when you said the achiever, I was like, oh, I feel like that's the eldest, that one's the eldest daughter.
Yeah.
But do you feel that birth order and also those roles kind of do coincide?
Absolutely. What I see a lot is a lot of the eldest child, right? They tend to take on the role of the caretaker. They're like, I have to take care of my siblings, my mother, my father. And they often go into these cycles of burnout, of exhaustion. So the birth order, it makes so much sense in terms of the kind of roles that you would naturally go into.
And I wonder as well, because, the birth order, if you're the first child, there's that anxiety that's there, or, because you don't know what to expect. I feel like it can be a lot to sort of handle. I think about it sort of from my perspective as well. I'm the eldest daughter, and you were just talking about these sort of different roles. I'm like, fuck, that's me. Oh, fuck, hold on, that's me. Oh, fuck, that's me as well. So it's really weird because I actually think I've got a great relationship with my mum. And it was something that I really wanted. Like, I desperately wanted a daughter. I desperately wanted to be in a position where I could have a great relationship with somebody, someone I can call a friend. But then I do think about certain things and I think, yes, I was like a friend to my mum, but I also took on roles that I probably shouldn't have as a child growing up. Do you find that women who are, of our age range probably took on more responsibility as being not just the child, but more?
Absolutely. Have you heard of the term parentified child?
I've heard this term
Right.
only recently.
So it's the child who felt like she needed to take on the role of a parent because once upon a time she was burdened with a lot of the adult related matters. Like, for example, if as a child your mom often would come to you to talk about a lot of the issues that were going on in the family. As a child, you go, oh my gosh, my mom is giving me, these big news, this big information. I need to do something with it. And at such a young age, you need to understand how the brain works. It's still developing. It has not fully developed to the stage where it's able to reason, to question and go, oh wait, mom, this is too much for me. I can't take it, right? As a child, you go, oh yep, mommy's telling me this. I'll just absorb, I'll take it in, right? And you don't realize how much you've absorbed as a child, how much you've taken on until you go into these relationships in adulthoods and you suddenly feel you're panicking. The moment you have to have a close relationship, for example, with your partner, the moment you have to take on all these new responsibilities as a mother, it just kind of comes to you as this feeling of overwhelm, as this feeling of, I'm just going to shut down. I just want to run away from the world because it just feels too much. And one of the things I also notice is this. A lot of times people hear, oh, it's such a loving bond that I have with, my mom. And the thing is that we need to understand when we're talking about a loving bond, whose perspective is it truly speaking from, right? Because a loving bond is not the absence of emotional wounds. From the mother's perspective, love to her sounds like a roof over your head, right? School education, clothes to wear, food on your table. In her perspective, I've given you everything. However, from the child's perspective, love could mean something different, right? In the child's eyes, love is often measured through connection, not just provision. Shelter, food, these are important needs that need to be met. They're fundamental needs that need to be met by the primary caregiver. However, when you're talking about a child's developing brain, what is needed, for that brain to really flourish, to grow, it's more than just these survival needs, right? What they need is that emotional attunement and safety, which means the child needs to feel that, hey, mommy understands me. She's holding, whatever it is that I'm feeling right now. She is able to validate whatever I'm feeling right now. And when those two versions of love, they do not align, the mother's expression of love through provision, sacrifice, and the child's need for connection and emotional presence, when they don't match, it results in a relationship that's very confusing for the child growing up. Because on one hand, the child might feel, ooh, warmth, love. But they might also notice another part of them that feels this deep sense of loneliness, this emptiness, right? And that is the hallmark of ambivalent attachment, that push-pull dynamic between craving closeness, yet fearing disappointment altogether. And this is where childhood emotional neglect often lives, because childhood emotional neglect is not so much about what happened, but what didn't happen for the child. So you may have, grown up in a seemingly safe home, no violence, no shouting, no hitting. But if your feelings were consistently neglected or dismissed, or you were often left, to yourself to deal with the overwhelm, the big feelings, because we're biologically hardwired to survive, the brain will go into this automatic response to push down all these needs, to push down all these emotions in order to preserve that connection.
Can we talk about how no one prepares you for how your skin changes in your 40s?
Honestly, one day it's fine, the next it's dull, dry, and showing every single emotion you've ever felt.
That's why I've actually been loving Love Indus. Their skincare actually feels like it's doing something. It's not just sitting on your face and looking sticky.
It blends South Asian ingredients like ashwagandha and vegan ghee with proper New York dermatology tech. It's luxurious, but also very results-driven.
Their line limiter is especially good if you're starting, like me, to notice lip or laugh lines. People compare it to Botox, which I would happily take after all those needles in my face.
And our listeners get the highest discount they offer, 21% off with code TFF at loveindus.com.
Plus, they ship free to Singapore, which seems like a very rare little treat.
And yes, we earn commission when you use our code. So don't forget to support the show by using code TFF.
So you mentioned ambivalent attachment. You mentioned overwhelm.
Yeah.
What are some other signs that we might be carrying our mother's trauma with us?
The body sensations, right? So a lot of times you might notice yourself having sudden palpitations, headaches that never seem to go away, that knots in your stomach, your gut is not doing too well, flare-ups in your skin. So a lot of times, these signs of unhealed trauma, it comes forth in your body, right? And these are automatic responses. You don't even have to instruct your body to beat faster. It's just beating faster. And you go, what is going on? And the reason why that happens is because a lot of these unhealed wounds is stored in the body, in your tissues, your organs, right? Your cells. And when that is that deeply ingrained, it's hard for you to just snap out of it. You can't tell yourself, oh, chill, chill, be okay, be okay. It doesn't work that way because it speaks a different language. And we need to be able to understand how it speaks to us.
This sounds, so we've heard of generational trauma, which is, from your grandparents, your great grandparents, but this doesn't feel so far like generational. This feels really close. Is there another term for that, or would it still fall under the same sort of category?
It would still form under the same, because your mother was your first universe. So you inherit whatever she was seeing, she was feeling. And within her own body, she is also carrying the wounds of her mother, her parents. So it's all being passed down, and it is generational trauma.
Have you worked with clients that have not been able to unpack that? Meaning you can see the signs on, whether it's in their body or in their expression, that they are struggling with this passed down trauma, but they aren't ready to address it yet?
Yeah. And you can feel it in the form of the resistance, right? So every time when we are trying to go there to that part that is raw and vulnerable, they could either come in the form of intellectualizing their feelings, right? So this term is called spiritual bypassing, and just not feel what you need to feel, but just stay up here in the mind, because it's safer to stay up here, right? To kind of find, and you can read all the books, listen to podcasts, and go, okay, why did this happen? But it's not the same work as going within here, right? So clients who tend to be resistant, they tend to show, experiences of intellectualizing and just rationalizing a whole lot of, I know why I feel this way. Oh, this happened because of this.
Yeah. Is it necessary that once a client has identified that a trauma is, that they've had trauma carried over from their parent, that they forgive? Is forgiveness a necessary step for this?
So when we look back at the term of forgiveness, right? So the role of forgiveness is freedom for yourself, not justifying, excusing, or forgetting what happened. So forgiveness is not so much about the other person, what they did to you, but it's more about releasing this pain that still lives within you. So I see this pitfall, it's so common. And it's because of how forgiveness has been defined from the onset. It's got a lot to do with how we've been brought up, growing up. You might hear things like, oh, she's your mother. She brought you into this world. Just let it go. Just forgive her, right? Don't be a difficult child.
Rise above, right?
Yeah, rise above, right? Be the better
gift.
person, right? The problem with these words is that it teaches you that your pain is invalid. It teaches you that you need to silence what has hurt you, right? So if you are struggling to forgive, it might just be because of what you've been taught to believe about forgiveness. So a reframe that I would like to share on this, it would be this, right? If you say, I forgive you, mother, what you're actually really saying to yourself is, I release myself from carrying this pain that was never even mine to hold in the first place. And this reframe can be especially powerful because it takes your power back, right? It shifts that focus towards here, towards safety, towards freedom, not so much on what the other person can do, their capacity and their willingness to actually change. Now, with that said, forgiveness is something that is not an easy thing, right? To let go of the what you've been holding on to, because the deeper the relational wound, the harder it is for this part to want to kind of part ways with that and to let go of all of that. So if you're struggling with that, I would invite you to extend grace and compassion to yourself and to let go of the timelines, to have to be over it, to be done with it. Know that this is your healing journey. Everybody's, healing journey will look very different. And you shouldn't have that timeline or deadline in place, because it's just going to add a lot of pressure to this part of you that's navigating through this complexity.
Yeah. And I think, specifically releasing yourself from timelines is relevant to women in their 40s, because a lot of women in their 40s have daughters and have mothers.
Yes.
Right. And that's not been the case for most of our lives, right? It's like until you become a mother, you aren't struggling with that. And then add to the fact that as your parents age, you become more of a parent to that parent. So now you have your actual child, and now you're in a parental role with your parent. This is new for many of us.
Absolutely.
You know, how do you help women navigate being kind of that sandwich of a parent and a parent of their elderly parent?
So it's being aware of what comes up, because it's not an easy thing, right? You know, going to your 40s, there are going to be a lot of these new responsibilities you're going to take on. Caring for your child, caring for your aging parents, managing a relationship with your partner, your in-laws, work, and on top of that, managing of the self. So if you think about it, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot, right? And if you were to dismiss that as, oh, you know, it's just nothing, right? You're gonna actually essentially telling your pain that, oh, what you're going through now, it's just nothing, right? So first, it's just being aware and going in to validate what you're going through right now. It's not easy, right? Being a mother, that's a new role that you're taking on. And right now the roles are reversed. You're now being a mother to your mother, right? And that can either strain or further strengthen the relationship depending again on the original imprint. If the early bonds with your mother is filled with compassion and love, yes, you might still find yourself, you know, having those instances where it's going to be tiring, right? It is not easy, right? You are going to feel tired, but the overarching or the dominant, you know, emotional experience you might actually feel, it's more of that compassion and empathy rather than, oh, you know, this is a burden. I'm so exhausted. I'm going to just give up, right? And it's important to be aware of that, right? And if the original imprint was that of a lot of the fear and uncertainty, that is going to come up as well. Any survival patterns that has not been healed is going to come up as well. So instead of feeling more grounded, you might find yourself in these loops of feeling exhausted, burnout, feeling shame, deep loneliness. So motherhood can really awaken a lot of the old, unhealed attachment memories and wounds. So that awareness is key so that you are in control of what's going on instead of all these younger parts, the past parts coming on and controlling your life today.
Can you, so the way I'm sort of hearing what you're saying is that obviously these emotional feelings that we go through in the womb, which is obviously subconscious, we're not aware of what's going on, is something that stays with us for a long time. Can you really truly heal from that? Like, is there a way? Because if it's not something that you're able to control, can you control it later?
Yeah. Is it so innate that it's unchangeable?
Yeah. So the good thing is that even if you can't remember what exactly happened, but your body keeps score, right? So being able to work with the unconscious, to be able to work with the unhealed wounds, using your body as that vessel, as that portal, right? And when you use your body as this system, as this intelligent vessel to guide you through the parts that still need healing, it helps navigating through healing a little bit more manageable compared to just kind of like going through it feeling blinded and not knowing where to start, right? So one of the things that I do in the sessions with my client is somatic healing. And for those who are, you know, not familiar with somatic healing, it's essentially working with the body, because the body carries the imprints of our unhealed wounds. So in sessions, it might look like, you know, slowing things down and really tuning in to your body sensations. For instance, just noticing what's happening right now, right? Is there a tightening of your chest? Is your head feeling heavy? Do you notice a lump in your throat or knots in your stomach? Because that's the language of stored trauma. It speaks the language of the body. And there are three key elements that I do in my sessions with clients to guide them through this. And the first is titration. So titration, it is being able to feel the pain, but in small microdoses, right? Because you don't want to overwhelm the nervous system as you're trying to feel these emotional experiences. Number two, it's about pendulation. So this is a gentle rocking back and forth between the state of activation and the state of safety. Again, is to allow the body to stay within the window of tolerance so that it does not feel overwhelmed. And the third element, it is resourcing. So this is about creating these anchors of safety internally or externally so that it sends that signal to the body that, hey, you know, it's safe to be here. You don't have to check out.
And are these movements, like is pendulation literally a movement or is it a mental practice?
So it's a mental awareness of where your energy is being fluctuating towards. So let me give you an example, right? For example, you're walking through the hawker center, right? You're just nicely walking through and suddenly you're hearing this shouting, this loud noise. Someone's shouting at the back. You're noticing your heart, this part is just tightening up, right? Your shoulders are tensing up, knots in your stomach. You're feeling this irritation, this annoyance, and suddenly you feel as though, oh my gosh, this reminds me of my mom's anger, right? So the good thing, you don't have to stay stuck with that, right? You don't have to stay stuck with what's going on here, the activation here. It's about noticing that is there and being able to shift the awareness from here to another place that feels grounded. So that's where pendulation comes in, going from this space of activation and just finding externally. Like for example, nearby you're noticing there are trees, and you're like, oh, trees gives me a lot of calm. So just bringing your attention to those trees, noticing the color, the leaves, the branches, the bark, right? And just placing your attention there until you notice your system feels a bit calmer. And once it feels calmer, you can pendulate back to this place of activation. So doing this back and forth until you notice this activation feels a little lesser, right? And what you also did there was to anchor into resourcing, using the tree to kind of bring your senses back into the present moment.
Wow.
And I mean, I think, layman's term for that is mindfulness, right? Being in that moment. But I think that's it's helpful to frame it as a strategy, meaning being in the present moment with the trigger might be very alarming. Like I'm mindful, but I'm triggered and I'm tense. Versus, like you said, I love the pendulation, swinging out toward the tree,
just a
right?
bit, right?
Take a deep breath, and then we get back into ourselves.
And when you come back, you don't have to stay there forever.
Yeah.
Stay there for 3 to 5 seconds and then go out again,
yeah,
right?
it's not escapism,
Yeah,
right?
it's
It's
not-
pendulation, right?
yeah.
I think that's such a great distinction.
And it's so important to be able to teach your nervous system to increase its capacity to be with these feelings. The reason why I feel so many times we don't want to feel is because we've been taught the traditional way of feeling, which is sit with it until you go into that full meltdown and crisis, right? Until you feel so re-traumatized. I mean, it makes sense if that has been the way on how you're supposed to feel your feelings. The next time you're telling your body, hey, feel it, your body's going to go, no way am I going to be feeling it. That's too scary. So you want to take it really slow, right? In healing these trauma wounds, slow is the way to go fast.
Why is it that sort of revisiting these experiences can actually help rather than just sort of staying away from them altogether?
Because it's about helping your body to complete what it couldn't complete back then.
Can you expand on that?
Because imagine this, once upon a time, if let's say you were in situations where you wanted to let out your anger, but your dad or your mom came in, don't you dare do that. I don't like you to be an angry child. So what happens? As a child, you had to hold it in, right? So the anger that wanted to go out, it had to stay stuck. So that is what happens as you move on in life. A lot of the stuckness, it still remains. The anger that wanted to come out, it couldn't complete itself. So the objective and the purpose of revisiting is not to re-traumatize you, which is why we go really slow, is to be able to touch base with what needed to touch base at that point in time and to help it to complete it through very safe means. So for example, anger is something that comes in a form of activation. It's a lot of activation that comes in your body. So the strategy to that is to be able to discharge it. So some of the ways on how you could do it, shadow boxing, right? Channeling that energy towards somewhere because the energy needs to go somewhere. Yeah. If it doesn't go out, it stays here.
And then if it stays inside, that's when it manifests as a physical
illnesses, everything comes on. Yeah.
Do you feel that this is unique to the mother-daughter relationship? I mean, obviously there's the aspect of the womb, right, which is the obvious connection. But do you think that that this extends to parenting generally? So let's say adoptive parents, let's say the father parent, or the second partner that's not the non-birthing partner. Do you feel that these still, that this is still relevant for that relationship?
Yeah, any relational wound would have very similar injuries on the inside, right? It's going to be the same. The wound of feeling not wanted, abandoned, not loved, whether it comes from your mother, your father, wherever it is, as long as it's a human being, that injury, that relational wound can happen.
Yeah. I asked that specifically because I have a friend who's very public about her struggles with her father. And it made me think about one of the ways that she's public about it is that she struggles now that she's in a kind of parenting role as he's elderly. She struggles to not forcefully repeat her wounds on him because she wants to punish him. And she wants to show him how it felt to be her now that the roles are reversed.
Yeah.
And you know, she's constantly open about her battle to not reproduce that toxic relationship, you know, but it's hard because it's what she knows.
Yeah.
And so I was like, is this, you know, do you see that with fathers as well as mothers, you know, the kind of this struggle to not repeat patterns?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And when you're working with women that have at least done the work on themselves, so they say, okay, I have examined these patterns, I know where they come from, I've been swinging on my pendulum, getting my shit together, but is reconciliation, so I mentioned forgiveness, right? So can you forgive, but meaning can you reconcile with the parent? Is that the true final step where you reestablish a relationship that is not toxic with the parent that gave you that deep wound?
So, Amanda, you know how I've been on this journey about improving my sleep?
Oh, you have been obsessed about it lately.
Well, I have found something that has been incredible. Cozy Earth bed sheets.
Ooh, that's saying a lot because you are really picky about your sleep setup.
Exactly. These sheets are made from bamboo viscose. They are naturally breathable and I get the perfect night's sleep. They keep me cool all night.
Oh, and I've been eyeing the pajamas too. They are so chic and super cozy.
It's a total game changer and so relaxing for the evenings.
And what's crazy is that Cozy Earth actually ships to Singapore, orders over $560, ship free. And in the US, orders over $50, ship free.
And did you know you can get your biggest ever discount, 41%, if you use code TFF today?
So head over to cozyearth.com and use that code TFF today.
I would say the key here to start repairing anything, it's not so much about that reconnection, but it's about self-regulation. Because the first step in repairing that fractured bond and that relationship, it's about learning how to become the parent you never had for yourself, but you always wished for, right? And why is this important? Self-regulation before reconnection. Why is it important to have the internal stability and safety first before you go out there trying to, you know, like reconcile and repair the relationship? Because if your wounds, it's still associating, you know, your parent to things like fear, disgust, shame, anger, right? Imagine trying to have a conversation from that place. It's gonna just come out.
Blow up.
Yeah, it's gonna be messy. You're just gonna be so drained and exhausted from it. And that's not gonna do any good to yourself and also to the relationship, right? You know, for some people, they build these walls around them when they have these wounds inside, when it's not healed. There are these walls around them. And imagine trying to have a conversation with someone with the walls in front of you.
Yeah.
Right?
Imagine you open like the little, you know, like in prison.
Yeah.
You open the little door, say something real quick, shut it back up.
Yeah,
it's not
it
great.
distorts a lot of the information and it makes it so hard to hear each other. And for some people, they're so good at building the walls, they've actually built soundproof rooms.
Yeah.
They place themselves in the room, right? And then imagine, again, trying to communicate with your mother and she's outside. Nothing gets out, nothing gets in, right?
So it sounds like there's, again, it sounds like a real sort of communication issue there where two people are talking, but no one's actually listening.
Yeah. And you can't hold space for one another if you're still coming from a place of deep wounding. It's hard. It's so hard.
I have deep empathy for women who carry these wounds from their mothers. I do. But I'm very happy to say that I don't, meaning my mother and I have a wonderful relationship.
That's beautiful.
I mean, supportive beyond words. So to flip the conversation to a more positive note, what are some signs that you are in a positive mother-daughter relationship? Like, what are the types of support, the types of conversations that you can have with your mother that you know that this is a secure and safe place?
Yeah. You will notice that your body feels calm when you're talking to her. It's not tense up. It's not being in defense mode, but you notice that you're able to go deep with her. You won't have thoughts of, oh, is she going to judge me? You know, is she gonna like criticize me if I were to say something like that? But when you have those conversations with her, you will feel it in your body that you're in such a flow together with her. The energies are like connected.
Do you think that culturally there's a difference between relationships, like mother-daughter relationships? And I bring this up because I feel like sort of in Asian culture, it can be a little bit more like there's more expectation. You kind of think about, you know, family values and what other people are thinking. Do you see that there's difference in relationships based on culture than there is, you know, maybe in a Western type environment as well?
Yeah, I would say in the Asian context, children are definitely brought up more conservative, more traditional, right? It's talking about, those gender roles, like, as a man, this is what you're supposed to do. As a female, this is what you're supposed to do. And because of the cultural differences, again, it impacts the kind of script that you have growing up, right? So if you're being brought up in an environment where as a female, as a woman, you're supposed to be a good housewife, cook very well because that's your job. That's where your worth is tied to. Then when you go into these relationships, that is how you would tend to define yourself, right? So definitely, yes, culture has a huge role in terms of how you see yourself, in terms of what you feel you should be doing, in terms of what your value and belief systems are.
It's time now for one of our favorite features on the show, which is our Fuel the 40s segment, sponsored by our sponsor, the Meat Club. And they've actually submitted a question for you. From your work in trauma recovery, do you find that there are certain meals or foods or ways of eating that help people feel kind of grounded and supported while they're healing in their healing journey?
Absolutely. I feel food is such an important part of ensuring that your system feels safe, because everything that you feed into your body takes it in, it absorbs it, right? And this can have a huge impact on your nervous system regulation. So if you're eating a lot of oily foods, high carbs, high sugar processed foods, you will notice, like in the moment you're like, oh yeah, those chips are so good.
Yeah, comfort food, right?
Comfort food, right? But you will notice a huge crash after that, right? The lethargy that never seems to go away because your body is experiencing a lot of inflammation, and that manifests itself through the chronic lethargy that never seems to go away. The brain fog, right? Issues perhaps with your period. There's a lot of things that can come up when you do not nourish yourself with the right sort of food for your body.
So what sort of thing do you recommend then to have, a stable mind, like stable body, stable mind? What sort of stuff would you recommend?
Vegetables, leafy vegetables, super important. Having high protein rich sort of foods, because that actually keeps your tummy full much longer. It prevents you from snacking. Snacking consistently, not so good as well. Not good for your sugar levels because it kind of goes into these crazy spikes. You actually don't have to eat a lot of meals every single day.
Yep.
Right?
We
You
say
don't
this
have,
all
you
the
don't
time.
have to keep
Talking to
snacking.
two nutritionists here. This is the stuff
You
we
don't
preach
have
all
to
day.
eat all the time. It's
Yeah.
all coming from internally. When your system is regulated, it's able to kind of control these cravings and temptations better. And it's not eating just because it's bored. It's not eating because it wants to escape certain feelings.
Do you find that you have people who are using food as an escape method?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Escapism can come in various forms,
Yeah.
and food is one of them. Emotional eating, right? Because it's very easily within your reach, right? It's so easily
It's
accessible, right?
And it's
the mo-
everywhere.
it's everywhere, right? At the supermarket, the vending machines,
Yeah.
you just kind of go in, reach in, and it's a very fast relief. You eat it, you take that candy, and you go, oh yeah, it's so good. And then your brain is looking for the next hit. It's like, okay, what's the next candy that I want to eat? What's the next, nice food that I want to eat? So it keeps your brain busy so that you don't have to go within your body, which is where the hurt and the pain is at. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think the same could be said for alcohol. Right?
Yes.
It kind of distracts the brain so that you don't have to deal with what's going on. in the
alcohol,
body.
gaming, shopping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a bit of a personal question?
Sure.
What brought you to this line of work? And
Wow.
if the answer is your own mother, if you could share that with us.
I would say it's my lived experience of going through traumatic experiences. I think it started off like in adulthood, being in relationships that were not fulfilling. But as I got deeper into the work, I realized that, hey, actually, yeah, there was some parental wounds growing up, it's a loving family, but, there are instances where I remember as a child, big feelings. I was left to my own to be able to deal with it, right? So I was thinking it wasn't really from the parents' intention to want to make me feel like a miserable child. Looking back, it's what they could do at that point in time based on what they have learned themselves growing up in their families. So going into this work, it has allowed me to extend a lot of that compassion towards my own parents, and also first and foremost towards my own self. To stop, being harsh on myself for feeling this way, for having, these struggles that I see myself today. And I think moving through this journey, I realized that this work of going within, it's so important, right? It's not a thing that you should do when you just have time. Because think about this, everything that you see, everything that you do out there is based on how you see yourself internally here. If internally it feels disconnected, it feels insecure, unstable, that will be the very lens on how you see everything out there. And even if you got all these achievements, good career, great wealth, you will not be able to really be in it and really feel it, because there will always be a part of you that feels that sense of emptiness and loneliness.
Deep wound, like you said, it doesn't heal overnight.
Yeah.
Well, let's lighten up the convo a little bit. We have a segment called Hot or Hype here on the Forties Formula, where we'll give you kind of a hot topic in psychology.
Sure.
And you can get back to us if you think it's hot or if you think it's total hype.
Okay.
And you can absolutely justify your answer. So it's not like you have to, die on a hill. You can tell us why you feel that way.
Okay.
But so hot or hype, family therapy.
Oh, definitely a hot.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I thought you were going to say hype for a second.
Family therapy, it's something that allows you to uncover all those hidden patterns of generations. Something that on your own would feel really hard to process and unpack. So yeah, a hot.
Oh, yay. That makes me happy. Yeah. All right. Hot or hype, moms and daughters as best buddies.
I would say it depends, okay? Because if best friends means it is that having healthy boundaries, having mutual respect, openness, then it's a hot. But if best friends mean there is, a lack of healthy boundaries, no privacy, emotional dependency, then it's a hype.
Yeah, then that's fair to say, I think, because that could go both ways for sure. Yeah. All right, hot or hype, and this kind of alludes back to my story about my friend and her father, adult kids cutting off their parents.
I would say it depends. If it's coming from a place of healing, right, and safety, then it's a hot. But if it's coming from a place of avoidance and convenience, then it's a hype.
All right, last one, breath work. Specifically 9D breath work, if you're familiar with it, but that kind of practice of letting go through breath. Yeah. Hot or hype?
Hot. Oh. Yeah.
Good, because we both did it. So
we've done it once.
Hot.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, well, our final question for every guest here on the Forties Formula, and I think you'll be in a beautiful position to share this with us from your expertise. What is your Forties Formula? From your background, what would you like to offer women in their 40s from your perspective that will help them thrive?
Stay curious, play more, keep your nervous system regulated, because that is where your real confidence will truly shine.
I love that.
Oh, nervous system regulation, girl. It needs a shorter, kind of catchphrase, but it's a good bumper sticker. Well, we are so happy to have you with us today, Nur. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you so much.
Again, best of luck with your recent book publication, and we hope to chat with you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome, Fazli. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so that's that first little part, and then now I'm going to read your bio, and then we'll rock and roll.